Let's first bring in our political editor, who, of course, did that exclusive interview with Angela Rayner this week. Beth, good morning to you. The fate of Angela Rayner may well be determined today.
Yes, it could be that the report by the Prime Minister's ethics advisor, we're expecting it potentially today, and we might know quite soon the fate of Angela Rayner. Now, the Prime Minister said yesterday that the inquiry would be swift. He was clear about that. And he would not cast any judgment until his advisor, Sir Laurie Magnus, gives him the report and his findings. And I think there is a general consensus in Westminster that if Sir Laurie finds that the Deputy Prime Minister has broken the ministerial code, she will have to resign. The Prime Minister has been very clear in the past that he will abide by rules, that he thinks process is important, and was highly critical of a former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, when his then independence standards advisor found that ministers had broken the code, and yet Boris Johnson kept them on. So it would be very difficult in those circumstances for Sir Keir to do anything else. It's unclear what will happen yet. If Angela Rayner did have to resign, there would then have to be a cabinet reshuffle, because she is obviously the Housing Minister and Deputy Prime Minister. But I don't want to prejudge anything. We haven't seen the paperwork. There has been reports overnight. The conveyancer that dealt with Angela Rayner's flat sale said to the Telegraph last night that she didn't give legal advice. So that caused some controversy. But as I understand it, Angela Rayner also met with trust lawyers and experts and advisors, and she obviously has different pieces of advice. As I understand it, there were 3 different pieces of advice. When this story broke and there was questions around the stamp duty issue, she then sought expert counsel, and it was at that point that she was told the original advice could have been wrong. She went to the Prime Minister, and here we find ourselves about a week later with her future very uncertain. So we are here in Downing Street because the report could come out soon, and it will be massive whatever happens here. She is the second most powerful woman in the country. She is the Deputy Prime Minister. It's an elected post as the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, and she will remain the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party unless she chooses not to, should she lose her position as the Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary. But as I said, don't want to prejudge anything until we have the findings of the investigation. The Prime Minister then has to look at the findings and take a decision, and then they will take it from there. But obviously all eyes now on the future of Angela Rayner. And you saw in that interview I did with her, she gave a very fulsome account of the circumstances around the trust. She said that she had acted in good faith. She said that she regretted the error deeply. And she really asked people to be understanding of her complicated family arrangements. But really, it rests with the evidence and the paper trail. And we should find out potentially today what the outcome is.
All right, Beth, for now, I'm sure we'll be speaking to you later. Thank you. Let's get more on this. I can speak now to the former Downing Street Communications Director for John Major, Jonathan Haslam. Very good morning to you. Do you see this as black and white, as our political editor was portraying it there? If she is found to have broken the ministerial code, she will have to leave Cabinet.
I think that's almost inevitable. Good morning, Sam. I think that there's no other way out for her. We need to look at the language here. Does Keir Starmer have to sack her, or does she resign? So much is going to be dependent on the words that Sir Laurie uses in his report. It's always very difficult in these circumstances, and this is a particularly complicated one. The thing that Keir Starmer would be looking for particularly is very clear advice from Sir Laurie. He won't want a sort of wishy-washy, maybe she could have done this, maybe she could have done that. He'll want to have, he would very much want to have a clear finding that he can rest upon. And then with showing it to Angela Rayner, if it's adverse, she can make her own decision. That would make life easier for him. But there is no easy way out for either Angela Rayner or for Keir Starmer. Angela Rayner's got a number of problems. She should have been hyper vigilant about anything to do with property, just because of those issues some time ago when she sold a council tax flat that she had bought. And there were questions about both whether or not she should have paid capital gains tax on it, and indeed what were her living arrangements and where she was registered to vote. Now, in the event, she still managed to get away with that. I say no allegation she did anything wrong, but it created a furore at the time. And under those circumstances, you have to go the extra mile. I'd be really interested to know if she also took the opportunity to take any advice from the Cabinet Office. Now, they won't give tax advice, but they would give strategic advice, saying you do really need to go to experts in these particular fields to be able to get your true answer about what it is that you've got yourself into and how you need to make sure you're clear with HMRC. So there's so much riding on this. One final point, Sam, which we might want to discuss a bit further, is the effect on Keir Starmer, because while Angela Rayner does have a very large constituency of support, there are plenty of other people who would not want to see her as Prime Minister. And therefore, while she's in place, Keir Starmer's position actually is quite strong because there's no contender. If she's gone and a realistic contender comes up, bearing in mind the torrid time that the government's had since it came into office, then his position could become somewhat more fragile.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So you think that there is some calculus in his mind. He has to weigh up responding to the ethics report because he was very critical of the way Boris Johnson, for example, did not sack Priti Patel after she was found to have broken the ministerial code. He's got to weigh that up against keeping Angela Rayner where he can see her.
Yes, indeed. And I think that is important. I mean, damaged goods as well, because she will have, there's always a whiff around these, whatever a report says, that the sort of the allegation sticks, even if you're found to be completely free of guilt. And it's just worthwhile. It's fascinating you mention the situation with Boris Johnson and Priti Patel. Now, the report into Priti Patel did give her a little bit of a way out, but it said unintentional bullying. Now, I think in most people's minds, if you're a Home Secretary, you should have the intellect and wit to know whether or not the way you're treating people is bullying behaviour or not. So one word got Priti Patel out of trouble in that circumstance. Here, the language of Sir Laurie is going to be absolutely crucial. And Beth and her colleagues in the lobby are forensic scientists when it comes to looking not just at the words, but actually the lines between the words. And they will interpret and tell us what the politicians should be doing.
Yes, does it come down to the sort of nuanced difference, really, between whether she made an honest mistake or a careless mistake?
Yes, I think it does. I think there's going to be quite a lot of forensic analysis around the words that Sir Laurie uses, and he will take into account the form she's got and her position. I mean, she is the housing minister. Stamp duty and land tax, of course, is A, first of all, a ludicrous tax, and B, we see just how complicated the whole issue is. And particularly when the government at the moment is facing an incredible problem with its budget. It's speculating, there's briefing going out perhaps, maybe not from the government, about the potential to completely upend property taxes and council taxes. And this is just bad news in any respect, basically because that sort of fundamental change should either be dealt with through probably a green paper and a white paper and a lot of consultation to avoid unintended consequences. And it's a moot point. You could even say that actually it should be a manifesto commitment before, so people know what they're getting themselves into. She's in charge of that department. She's not in charge of the taxation of it, but it's crucial that we get a proper debate about these issues. And your earlier package just showed how complicated it can be. And that's one of the problems that the whole of the country faces. We are over-regulated. It's a bureaucratic nightmare, and it holds so much back.
Not least because the Prime Minister tightened up the ministerial code, didn't he, not long after taking power, wanted to bring in more transparency amongst his ministers. Is there a scenario whereby she could be found to have made an unintentional mistake here, pay a fine to HMRC, make right the stamp duty that she ought to have paid, perhaps lose her role as Housing Secretary, but remain on as Deputy Prime Minister?
Well, so many hypotheticals, and it's almost impossible to ask. I think if she is found to be significantly at fault, even if it was inadvertent, she's going to have a bit of a problem in terms of credibility because she has been very trenchant. We remember the criticisms of Nadeem Zahawi when the Conservatives were in office. So there is a credibility issue she has to face. But equally, Keir Starmer won't want me to be rushing in at the moment to a major reshuffle, including cabinet ministers, if he can avoid it. He's got enough problems on his plate at the moment. And he's not going to be thanking Angela Rayner in the slightest for this, because this was supposed to be a week of a reset. A new economic advisor coming in, taking Darren Jones from the Treasury to act as his new chief of staff. I think there's a chief of a staff. We have Tim Allen, who worked with Alistair Campbell and set up the Portland PR company and is a very astute business person, now to become the executive director of communications. Well, I can tell you, as a former director of communications at Number 10, this is the last thing on planet Earth I would like to have seen in my in tray if I'd been Tim Allen.
Oh, just as well it's not you then, but fascinating to get your perspective. Jonathan Haslam, thank you very much.
Thank you.